Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take stacks of information, distill the most critical insights, and give you the competitive edge of being instantly well-informed.
Today, we are taking a really fascinating and crucial plunge into what you could call the invisible economy.
The invisible economy, I like that. We're talking about the highly nuanced world of designing, managing, and most importantly, delivering superior services.
And it's a dive that couldn't be more timely. I mean, you look around globally, and manufacturers find it harder and harder to differentiate their physical products.
Right. The competitive landscape for actual goods is flattening out.
It is. And because of this, the entire focus of profitability, of differentiation, it all shifts to one of two things. Either the service that wraps around that physical product, or the pure service provided entirely on its own.
So superior service is basically the key to creating sustainable value today.
That's it. It's everything.
Okay, let's unpack this with a spectacular opening hook that shows just how transformative superior service can be. Think about the traditional circus. You probably picture, I don't know, sawdust, three rings, maybe the smell of peanuts, and historically animals. That was the product. Now think about Cirque du Soleil.
Cirque du Soleil is the absolute textbook example of redefining a service experience. They looked at the core ingredients of the circus. You know, the aerialists, the clowns, the physical drama.
All the classic stuff.
Exactly. And they just broke loose from every single convention that had defined that industry for, what, a century?
And it became this immersive sensory experience. We're talking about lavish, almost surreal costumes, dramatic new age music, and spectacular stage design. It feels closer to Broadway than the big top.
And the masterstroke, the key differentiation, they eliminated the animals entirely.
Which is huge. It must have drastically cut costs, not to mention removing that negative association a lot of consumers had.
It was a business model innovation as much as an artistic one. This group started as, street performers in Quebec.
Yeah, that's right.
And now it's a $500 million global enterprise, generating over $800 million in annual revenue. They employ over 3,000 people across 4 continents.
Wow.
So their success isn't just about the amazing acrobatics. It's built on a culture of constant artistic innovation, and this is critical, intense fan engagement.
Through their Cirque Club. Right.
Right. Their million-plus member Cirque Club, which drives something like 20 to 30% of their ticket sales. That is service, elevated to performance art, and managed with just ruthless business rigor.
That example really highlights precisely why we need to understand the structural demands of service. This isn't just a marketing nicety.
No, it's an economic imperative. When you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics data, the context is just undeniable.
What does the data show?
Well, the service-producing sector is, simply put, the dominant employment generator in the U.S. economy. It was expected to add a staggering 14.6 million jobs through 2018.
14.6 million.
Which accounted for 96% of the expected increase in total employment.
96%. Wait, think about that figure. Almost all new employment is happening in this invisible economy.
Precisely. And you contrast that against the goods-producing sector. In 1998, it was about 17.3% of all jobs. By 2008, it had dropped to 14.2%, and the forecast saw it dropping even lower.
And manufacturing specifically?
Manufacturing alone shed 4.1 million jobs between 1998 and 2008. The economic landscape has definitively shifted from making things to doing things.
So if we're going to navigate this shift, we need to stop thinking of service as just customer service and start thinking of it as the core offering.
Yes.
So what is the fundamental definition? What is a service?
A service at its foundation is any act or performance one party offers to another that is essentially intangible. And here's the critical legal and economic distinction. It does not result in the ownership of anything.
No ownership. So you pay for the experience or the access, not the title.
Exactly. Its creation might require physical products, a plane for travel, a chair for a haircut, but the value resides in the act, the process, and the result, not in the physical item itself.
That foundational definition leads us directly into our first major challenge, which is understanding just how ubiquitous service really is. We're calling this section the invisible offering because services are often hidden in plain sight.
They really are. They permeate every single sector.
I think when most people hear service industry, they probably default to the obvious business sectors, right? Like Airlines, consulting firms, banks, medical practices.
Sure, but the influence goes so much deeper. I mean, you have the massive government sector providing services corps, military defense, public hospitals, schools, police.
And the entire private nonprofit sector is service-driven.
Completely. Museums, charities, churches, universities, and colleges, their primary deliverable is an intangible experience, whether that's education or, community support.
But what's really critical is realizing how embedded services are, even within the classic manufacturing world.
That's where the concept of the internal service factory comes in. It's a great term.
What is that exactly?
Well, even a major auto manufacturer employs vast numbers of people who are essentially service providers.
Yeah.
The computer operators, the legal staff, the accountants, the HR department.
Ah, I see.
These people form an internal service factory that has to operate efficiently to support the goods factory. And of course, in retail, every interaction with a cashier, a clerk, or a salesperson is a service moment.
So since most offerings aren't purely one thing or the other, we have to look at it as a continuum. Our sources break down the service mix into 5 distinct categories.
That's right. It ranges from pure goods to pure services. At one extreme, you have the pure, tangible good salt, soap, anything mass-produced where the service component is basically non-existent.
Okay, that's straightforward.
Then you have a tangible good with accompanying services. Think of a computer or a car. The more complex the technology, the greater the demand for high-quality supporting services like warranty, repair, or training.
Right. I mean, a car is useless if you can't get reliable, quick service when it breaks down.
Of course. Then you hit the middle ground, the hybrid.
The classic example being a restaurant meal.
The perfect example. You have roughly equal parts goods and services. People choose a high-end restaurant not just for the raw ingredients, which are the goods, but for the chef's preparation, the ambiance, and the waitstaff's performance. Those are the services.
Okay, so moving further along the spectrum.
You find a major service with accompanying minor goods and services. Air travel is the definitive example here. The primary item you're buying is the service of transport.
But it requires the hugely capital-intensive airplane.
Exactly. And you get minor physical goods like snacks, drinks, or amenity kits. And finally, you have the other extreme, the pure service, which is purely intangible babysitting, psychotherapy, or a live performance like Cirque du Soleil.
It's right in the middle of that continuum where we see some really interesting companies innovating, kind of blurring the line between access and ownership. Let's talk about Zipcar, which really redefined how a lot of us think about the car as an asset.
Zipcar is a pioneer, no question. In the U.S., its appeal is powerfully economic and environmental. For many families, just substituting car ownership with Zipcar can save them between $3,000 and $4,000 a year.
Just by eliminating insurance, maintenance, gas costs, all that headache.
All of it. You pay a membership fee, rates under $100 a day, and that price includes all the headaches of ownership.
But the crucial insight here is that Zipcar isn't just about sharing a physical car. It's a specific, rule-bound service ecosystem, and it's built on mutual trust.
Precisely. They have a diverse fleet, all booked online. The CEO, Scott Griffith, he openly acknowledged that the business model depends on the kindness of others.
Meaning you have to follow the rules.
It means strict adherence to rules. No smoking, return the car on time, call if you're running late. If customers fail at their part of the service delivery, the entire model just breaks down. They've been growing rapidly, about 30% annually, by mastering this really delicate balance.
So the moment you introduce this level of service, you introduce complexity in how the customer even evaluates it. Unlike buying a TV, you can't really try on a service beforehand.
Not at all.
This brings us to the evaluation difficulty continuum, which is broken down into search, experience, and credence qualities.
This is a foundational concept because it quantifies the risk the customer feels. Search qualities are characteristics the buyer can evaluate before they purchase.
So physical goods, clothing, furniture, houses.
Exactly. They are low risk because you can see them, touch them, compare them. Experience qualities, on the other hand, are the bulk of services. You can only evaluate them after consumption, a restaurant meal, a vacation, a concert.
You know if the service was good, but only once it's over and you've already paid.
Right. And then we reach the evaluation Everest, credence qualities. These are characteristics the buyer finds incredibly hard to evaluate even after consumption. This is where trust is absolutely paramount.
Like legal services or a complex auto repair or a root canal.
A root canal is a perfect example. How do you truly know if your lawyer picked the best strategy or if that expensive surgery was entirely necessary? The consumer has to rely completely on faith and reputation.
So the consequences of this are pretty profound. If you're operating in the high experience, or even worse, the credence realm, you're inherently dealing with high purchase risk for your customer.
Yes, and so customers stop relying on advertising, which is easy to manipulate, and they start relying almost entirely on word of mouth, price, provider cues, and physical cues as proxies for quality.
And because that perceived risk is so high, and the psychological cost of switching providers is significant, that consumer inertia customers become fiercely loyal to providers who deliver satisfaction.
Absolutely. If you find a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant you trust, it takes a massive failure to get you to switch.
This inherent difference between goods and services means marketing programs have to be designed differently from the ground up, which brings us to the 4 distinctive characteristics of services, the famous 4 I's.
Right. We'll start with the first and most defining one, intangibility. Services cannot be seen, felt, tasted, heard, or smelled before they are bought.
You can't hold a financial plan or sample the results of cosmetic surgery.
No. So the service provider's most fundamental task is to manage the evidence and, as you said, to tangibilize the intangible.
Let's dig into that idea of managing evidence with an example. Let's say a bank wants to position itself as fast. They can't physically hand you fastness. So how do they prove it?
They manage the physical evidence across multiple simultaneous vectors. They focus on the place. Clean designs, efficient layouts, lines that are visibly managed. They focus on the people. Staff have to look busy, competent, and there have to be enough of them.
And the equipment has to look modern.
Right. The equipment must look state-of-the-art, no slow, clunky computers or old ATMs. Their communication material has to suggest efficiency. Their symbols, the brand name or logo, should convey dynamism.
But the most powerful way to tangibilize an abstract promise
Is through price, a concrete guarantee. The bank could promise to deposit $5 into the account of any customer who waits in line for more than 5 minutes. That turns an abstract promise of fast into a measurable, concrete deliverable.
This focus on tangible cues is central to crafting the overall brand experience. Our sources identify 4 key dimensions to this.
They are the sensory, which is engaging the senses, affective, inducing feelings or emotions, behavioral, encouraging interaction, and intellectual, stimulating curiosity. Disney, of course, is the absolute master of weaving all 4 of those into a seamless experience.
You see it in simpler, high-touch examples, too, like DoubleTree hotels giving every guest a fresh baked chocolate chip cookie at check-in.
That's a perfect example. It's a sensory cue that immediately symbolizes care and friendliness. It sets an effective tone for the entire stay.
Okay, on to the second I.
Inseparability. The service is produced and consumed at the same time. You can't cut hair in advance and store it. The provider is inherently part of the service, and because the client is often also present, that interaction is crucial.
Right. If the barber sneezes, it directly affects your haircut.
It does. And this creates a unique constraint, especially if the client has a strong preference for a specific provider, like a famous chef. That provider's time is limited, which is why their prices can be astronomically high. It's a form of rationing.
So how do you manage that constraint?
Well, providers use clever strategies. They can work with larger groups, a psychotherapist shifting from one-on-one to more efficient group sessions. They can work faster, streamlining the process. Or they can radically train and trust more service providers to instill confidence, like H&R Block did by building a massive national network of consultants.
The third I is the one that causes the most headaches, variability.
Oh, yes. Since quality depends entirely on who provides the service, when, where, and to whom, services are inherently inconsistent. That's why some doctors have a great bedside manner and others don't.
So variability is the enemy of quality control. How do you tame it?
You have to invest heavily in 2 areas: your people and your processes. On the people side, it's all about hiring and rigorous training. The ideal service employee needs 6 specific characteristics.
Which are?
They need competence, courtesy, credibility, reliability, responsiveness, and excellent communication skills. When firms prioritize this, the results are powerful. Wells Fargo, for example, actively recruits and trains a diverse workforce, and their average customer uses 5.2 different bank products, nearly double the industry average.
And on the process side, you have to find a way to standardize performance without losing that personal touch. This is where the service blueprint comes in.
A service blueprint is like a choreographer's notes for a dance. It maps out the entire service sequence from the customer's perspective, every action, every employee interaction, every piece of physical evidence.
So for a hotel stay, it would map everything from the moment the guest pulls up to the checkout procedure.
Exactly. It's essential for developing a zero defects culture because it makes the intangible sequence visible and measurable. Then, of course, you need constant monitoring through surveys, complaint systems, and mystery shopping.
And finally, the last I is perishability. Services cannot be stored. If a doctor has an hour-long gap in their schedule, that hour of potential revenue is just gone forever.
It's a massive problem when demand fluctuates. And the primary solution is demand or yield management. It's the strategic process of matching supply and demand.
So you do this through both demand-side and supply-side strategies. What are the demand-side levers?
You can use differential pricing, like matinee movie prices. You can cultivate non-peak demand, McDonald's successfully pushing breakfast. You can provide complementary services to keep customers busy during waits, like a cocktail lounge. And you use reservation systems to explicitly manage demand.
And on the supply side, how do you adjust capacity?
You can use part-time employees during peak periods. You can establish peak time efficiency routines where employees only do the most essential tasks. You can increase consumer participation like self-bagging groceries. You can use shared services, and you can invest in facilities for future expansion.
Speaking of managing demand, the ultimate innovation has to be the Disney Fast Pass system.
It's a genius piece of yield management. After decades of relying on physical lines, Disney realized the opportunity cost of just standing in a line was massive customer dissatisfaction.
Right. So Fast Pass lets you reserve a spot in line and come back later.
It didn't just eliminate the wait, it allowed guests to spend that waiting time at other attractions or, more importantly, in gift shops and restaurants. Polls showed 95% of visitors loved it because it fundamentally managed the flow of demand and supply across the entire park.
Okay, we're moving now into what our sources call the new services realities. Historically, service firms often lagged behind manufacturers in using sophisticated marketing. They sort of thought it was inappropriate or unnecessary.
That paradigm has completely collapsed.
Oh, absolutely.
Some of the most sophisticated marketers on the planet today are service firms. Singapore Airlines, SIA, is constantly cited as a success story in holistic marketing.
They win Best Airline awards year after year.
And their strategy is simple in intent, but ruthlessly executed. Constantly aim for the wow effect, always striving to surpass expectations.
Their attention to detail is legendary. They were the first to market with things like individual video screens at every seat. But the food science thing is just incredible.
It's astounding. They built a $1 million simulator designed to mimic the exact air pressure and humidity inside a plane at altitude.
Why?
Because their research found that our taste buds actually changed significantly in the air. So as a result, they specifically cut back on spices in their meals to compensate for the passengers' altered perception of flavor. That's not just service design. That is product refinement driven by environmental physics.
And they back this up with serious resource allocation. They use a famous 40-30-30 rule.
That's right. 40% of resources go toward training and invigorating staff investing in the people. 30% goes to processes and procedures. And the last 30% is reserved for generating new product and service ideas.
But not every company is Singapore Airlines. In many service industries, customers are reporting stagnant or even dropping satisfaction levels.
Oh, definitely. They complain about inaccurate information, rude or poorly trained workers, endless phone menus that prevent them from reaching an actual human being.
This ties into the new reality, customer empowerment. Customers are more sophisticated now, but the true earthquake here is the internet and the rise of viral rage.
The customer now has a global megaphone. Before the internet, 90% of angry customers would only share their story with a few friends. Now they share it with millions of strangers instantly.
Which brings us to the infamous United Brakes guitars case. It's taught in every business school now.
It is. Canadian musician Dave Carroll had his $3,000 guitar damage, a $1,200 loss during a United flight. His repeated, frustrated attempts to get compensated were just stonewalled.
So he wrote a song.
He created a humorous protest song and video, United Brakes Guitars. It went viral, racking up over 5 million views, and it caused a major reputation crisis for the airline.
They turned a $1,200 baggage claim into a worldwide public relations disaster.
They did. And United eventually responded by donating money to charity. But the lasting lesson was internal. They began using the incident in training. It demonstrated that you have to resolve issues swiftly before they leave your control.
Companies have had to get ruthlessly serious about digital complaints. I know Comcast proactively monitors social media and blogs, reaching out to customers online.
Yeah, and for digital communication, there are specific protocols now. Send an automated reply within 24 hours. put the company name in the subject line, make the message scannable, and provide a very easy follow-up mechanism.
Sometimes, failure actually leads to true service innovation. JetBlue's catastrophic Valentine's Day failure in 2007 is the model for disaster recovery.
That was an industry-defining moment. Severe storms led to hundreds of passengers being stranded on grounded aircraft for over 9 hours. Over 1,000 flights were canceled. The reputation, which was built on responsive service, was absolutely cratering.
But the CEO, David Neeleman, his immediate reaction was brilliant.
It was. Within 24 hours, he published a full-page, deeply personal apology in nationwide ads saying, "We were sorry and embarrassed, but most of all, we are deeply sorry."
The apology was genuine, but the action was concrete.
That's the key. They introduced a new customer bill of rights that offered guaranteed reparations. If you were stuck on a plane for 3 hours or more, you got a voucher worth the full value of your round-trip ticket. That rapid, personal, and tangible commitment not only saved their reputation, but fundamentally improved their service promise going forward.
Let's turn to the next reality, customer co-production. Customers are no longer passive. They're active, necessary participants in service delivery.
Right. They fill out their own forms, they pump their own gas, they bag their own groceries.
And this creates massive challenges. One study estimated that a full 1/3 of all service problems are actually customer-caused.
It makes sense when you think about it. Customers providing inaccurate information, forgetting passwords, using equipment incorrectly. The failures fall into 4 broad categories: people, processes, technology, and the servicescape, or the physical environment.
So we have to find solutions to manage that customer failure rate. What are the key strategies?
First, redesign processes for simplicity. Netflix, in its early days, mastered this with a flat fee and mail-in returns. They took the complexity out. Second, incorporate technology to aid both employees and customers. Comcast introduced software that proactively identified network glitches, which reduced repeat service calls by 30%.
What's the third strategy?
Third, create high-performance customers through clarity and motivation. You're managing their expectations and behavior. USAA, which serves military personnel, proactively reminds deployed policyholders to suspend their car insurance when they're stationed overseas.
That builds massive loyalty.
It does. And fourth, encourage customer citizenship, where customers help police or guide other customers. You see this in online forums or at golf courses, where experienced players encourage others to behave appropriately.
All of this leads back to the employee-customer link. If customers are co-producers and empowered, you have to have positive employee attitudes.
It's the core of internal marketing. Sears found a direct, high correlation between customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, and store profitability. Employees need to feel empowered and driven to anticipate needs, not just process transactions.
And if you don't treat them right, the cost is clear. One survey found 40% of workers cited lack of recognition as a key reason for leaving a job.
Service companies have to market a career, not just a disposable job. Look at Panda Express. Their management turnover is half the industry average because they invest in their people bonuses, health benefits, and a strong emphasis on worker self-improvement.
Now we turn our attention to the structural framework for achieving service excellence. It's clear that traditional marketing isn't enough. We need to embrace 3 types of marketing.
That's the key realization. External marketing is the traditional work preparing, pricing, distributing, and promoting the service. But for services, you absolutely need 2 others.
The first being internal marketing,
Which is training and motivating your employees to serve customers well. We often say the marketing department's most important contribution might be getting everyone else in the organization to practice marketing.
You have to sell the job before you can sell the service.
Exactly. And the third type is interactive marketing. This is the moment of truth.
This is the employee's skill in serving the client.
Right. And clients judge service quality on 2 parallel tracks. Technical quality, was the surgery successful? And functional quality, did the surgeon inspire confidence and show concern? You need excellence in both.
The firm that really embodies this high-tech, high-touch blend is Charles Schwab.
Schwab mastered the integration of online platforms, telephone support, and wireless devices. Their success is driven by superior service, constant innovation, and low prices. They use daily customer feedback reports, which are reviewed and acted on the very next day.
Technology plays a vital role here, increasing productivity.
For sure. When U.S. Airways deployed handheld scanners to track baggage, mishandled bags decreased by almost 50%, paying for the technology within the first year.
And sometimes technology provides these unanticipated benefits.
Like BMW introducing Wi-Fi to dealership waiting rooms. It had the unexpected benefit of encouraging more customers to wait for their cars instead of taking expensive loaner cars. The dealer saved a ton on maintenance and logistics costs.
But there is a caution here. You have to avoid standardization that reduces perceived quality. You still need that high touch.
Yes. The best providers know where to hold the line. Amazon is a perfect example. Vast automation, but they ensure their personalized support and simple return processes keep customers satisfied.
Let's synthesize the best practices of the top service companies. Our sources identify 5 key characteristics, starting with a clear strategic concept.
Top companies are fanatically customer-obsessed. They clearly define who their target customer is and develop a strategy to meet that need. Think about Four Seasons hotels. They require 4 interviews for hiring. They even employ a guest historian to track preferences.
Or the investment firm Edward Jones.
They use a costly, highly personalized model. Small office teams, 1 financial advisor and 1 administrator. The whole structure is designed to foster deep, personal relationships.
Second is robust top management commitment.
The leadership has to be all in. Companies like Marriott and Disney review both financial performance and service performance every month. And you have Sam Walton of Walmart demanding the 10-foot rule pledge from every employee.
If a customer came within 10 feet, the employee had to smile, make eye contact, and greet them.
Exactly. The third practice is setting incredibly high standards. This is where the numbers get truly eye-opening. You have to set standards appropriately high, meaning near perfection.
Because if you accept a seemingly good 98% accuracy standard, you are accepting catastrophic failure daily.
That 2% error rate translates to 64,000 lost FedEx packages every day, 400,000 incorrectly filled prescriptions daily, or 3 million lost USPS mail pieces each day. High standards are not aspirational, they are survival requirements.
Fourth is managing customers using profit tiers. This involves strategically differentiating the level of service based on a customer's profitability.
It's a complex strategy. High-profit, loyal customers get coddled with priority service. Low-profit customers might get stripped-down service or incur more fees to make their segment profitable.
Zappos did this during the recession.
They did. They stopped offering complimentary overnight shipping to first-time buyers and reinvested those savings into a VIP service for their most loyal customers. But firms have to walk a fine line here, because customers who feel they're getting lesser treatment can still generate that viral dissatisfaction.
The fifth practice is having robust monitoring systems, which brings us to an incredibly useful tool, the importance performance analysis.
Top firms use rigorous audits and voice-of-the-customer measurements to generate data. The analysis is a simple quadrant framework that rates service elements on 2 axes: how important they are to the customer and how well the company performs them.
And the goal is to focus resources immediately on quadrant A. High importance, low performance. These are the critical failures.
Exactly. For an auto dealership, that quadrant might contain things like job done right the first time or fast action on complaints. This is where the dealer must pour resources.
But the matrix also helps you find where you might be wasting effort.
That's the strategic genius of it. Quadrant D is possible overkill. Here, you have minor service elements being performed excellently at great cost that the customer doesn't really prioritize. You can reallocate those resources to fix the quadrant A problems.
This monitoring directly ties into how firms handle dissatisfaction. The source material refers to a complaint as a gift.
It is a gift, provided you treat it as an opportunity. Companies that actively encourage complaints and empower employees to remedy them on the spot achieve significantly higher revenues and profits.
Like Pizza Hut putting a toll-free number on all their boxes.
And the manager is required to call the customer back within 48 hours. This empowerment requires frontline employees to exhibit what are called extra role behaviors, going above and beyond.
This focus is fundamentally changing how companies view call centers, shifting them from pure cost centers to loyalty enhancers.
Right. The old model, seen at places like Sprint and Nextel, focused only on cutting costs. It led to terrible service. The new model focuses on resolution and quality, rewarding reps for first call resolution, using home shoring, and providing employee flexibility.
Okay, let's dedicate this next section to sustainable differentiation, because as we establish, most service offerings are very easily copied.
Differentiation relies on building a complex package. You differentiate through the primary service package, the core offering, and secondary service features, the add-ons.
The key to staying ahead is continual innovation.
It is. Take Schneider National, one of the world's largest long-haul freight carriers. They move freight, but they see themselves as being in the customer solutions business. Their innovations are continuous. Monetary incentives for drivers being the first to introduce in-cab satellite and mobile tech.
And even painting their trucks that distinctive Omaha orange.
Which wasn't just a brand strategy, but a deliberate move to improve road safety and increase public awareness.
Innovation is also responsible for creating entirely new service categories that disrupt traditional markets.
Oh, absolutely. First, online travel. Newer services like Kayak differentiated themselves from Expedia by using the Google model, building a superior, more flexible search engine.
Second, retail health clinics. This is a massive innovation in healthcare. Clinics like Minute Clinic, often in drugstores, address simple cases, colds, flu, minor injuries, using nurse practitioners.
The draw there is convenience, predictable service, and most importantly, transparent pricing from $25 to $100 per visit without an appointment.
Third, private aviation. This market evolved from full ownership to fractional ownership, pioneered by NetJets, and then to Marquise Jets, which offered prepaid time on the fleet.
And fourth, cloud computing. Salesforce.com provides customer management databases over the internet, disrupting the need for expensive custom software development. It's a huge cost saver.
These innovations underline how technology is completely reshaping service. Now, let's consider managing service quality expectations, because customer perception is the ultimate judge.
Customers form expectations from three key inputs: their past experience, word of mouth, and your advertising. Success comes down to a simple comparison. Customers compare the perceived service with the expected service. To delight them, you have to consistently exceed expectations.
And we use the service quality model to understand why delivery fails by identifying 5 predictable gaps.
Gap 1 is consumer expectation versus management perception. Management just misunderstands what customers want. For example, hospital administrators might think patients want better food when they actually want faster nurse responsiveness.
Gap 2 is management perception versus service quality specification. Management correctly perceives the wants but fails to set a quantifiable standard. They tell nurses to give fast service without defining fast in minutes.
Gap 3 is service quality specification versus service delivery. The standards are set, but employees are poorly trained or are held to conflicting standards.
And Gap 4 is service delivery versus external communications. Advertising creates distorted expectations. A beautiful room in the brochure, but the reality is tacky.
And finally, Gap 5 is perceived service versus expected service. The consumer simply misinterprets the service. A doctor visiting frequently might be meant to show care, but the patient interprets it as meaning something is seriously wrong.
Based on understanding these gaps, researchers identified the 5 determinants of service quality in order of importance. And the most important determinant of all is reliability.
Reliability means performing the promised service dependably and accurately. After that, you have responsiveness, assurance, empathy, and finally tangibles. The fact that reliability is number 1 shows that people just want the service to work as promised, above all else.
And within this, there's the zone of tolerance, the range of quality a customer deems satisfactory.
The final modern reality here is the rise of self-service technology, SSTs, ATMs, self-pumping, online ticketing. They replace person-to-person interaction, making service more accurate, convenient, and faster.
The cost savings are huge. One firm estimated answering a query via call center costs $7, but online it costs only 10 cents. One client saved $52 million a year by diverting calls online.
But the crucial challenge is adoption. You have to convince customers to use the SSTs. They need clear roles, a clear benefit, and confidence in their ability to use the tech.
Our final deep dive segment addresses the challenges for goods marketers, and then we'll wrap up with 2 incredible case studies of service excellence.
For product-based industries, product support, service installation, maintenance, repair is a major competitive battleground. Firms like Caterpillar and John Deere make a significant percentage of their profit from these post-sale services.
Customers buying expensive equipment have 3 classic worries.
They worry about reliability, they worry about downtime, and they worry about unpredictable out-of-pocket costs. Buyers integrate all of this into a calculation of the life cycle cost.
So manufacturers offer 2 kinds of services to mitigate those costs.
Right. Facilitating services are the basics: installation, training, financing. Then there are value-augmenting services that extend beyond the product itself, like Johnson Controls optimizing a facility's energy use.
You also see manufacturers selling service contracts or extended warranties.
They have to. And they also have to strategically determine the intent of their service units. Are they there to protect or enhance the product, like Apple's iTunes, or to expand independent service, like IBM's data center outsourcing?
The history of product support is an evolution. Manufacturers start with their own profitable parts departments.
Then they shift to authorized distributors and dealers who are closer to the customer. Then independent firms like Midas emerge. The modern imperative, though, is that as equipment gets more reliable, manufacturers have to figure out how to profit from the equipment itself, not just the service contracts.
We've discussed the rules and the frameworks. Now let's look at the masters who execute them perfectly. Let's start with the Ritz-Carlton.
The Ritz-Carlton is defined by its focus on both impeccable functional quality, the facilities, and deep personal quality. Their credo is, "We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen."
They codify this through the 3 steps of service, always using the guest's name, anticipating and fulfilling their needs, and providing a warm goodbye.
But the heart of their internal marketing is the daily 15-minute lineup. Managers gather employees to resolve problems and, crucially, read wow stories that reinforce the company's 12 service values. This is how they train the culture.
Let's share one of those wow stories. The story of the executive chef at the Ritz-Carlton Bali.
A child with severe allergies required special egg and milk products that were impossible to find in Bali. The chef, instead of just apologizing, personally contacted his mother-in-law in Singapore. She purchased the items, and the chef arranged for her to personally fly them over 1,000 miles to Bali.
That is just unbelievable.
That's service value 6. I own and immediately resolve guests' problems, and they empower every employee to spend up to $2,000 to resolve a guest issue on the spot without management approval. That trust is why they've won the Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award twice.
The second case study in excellence is the Mayo Clinic, which demonstrates service superiority through its very structure.
The Mayo Clinic's success is built on 2 unshakable core values: placing the patient's interests above all others and practicing teamwork.
Their focus on the patient experience is holistic. They have professional greeters, building designs that reduce stress, hidden equipment in pediatric rooms.
But the fundamental innovation is the teamwork concept. When a patient arrives, a team is assembled immediately: physicians, surgeons, nurses, specialists. That team debates test results for hours to reach a consensus. Surgery is often scheduled within 24 hours.
And the engine that drives this intense collaboration is their compensation structure.
Unlike most hospitals, Mayo doctors are on a flat salary. They're not paid by the volume of patients they see or the tests they order. This removes the entire conflict of interest and the incentive for competition. It actively encourages what they call curbside consulting, where doctors freely exchange expertise without financial barriers.
What an incredible deep dive. We've covered everything from the unique constraints of intangibility and perishability to the demands of the empowered customer.
The core learning is clear. Service marketing requires mastery of 3 simultaneous types: external, internal, and interactive. And you have to constantly monitor performance with tools like importance performance analysis to focus resources on what customers truly care about.
The invisible economy is defined by human interactions and employee engagement. As we saw with the Ritz-Carlton and Panda Express, if you manage the experience for your staff, the excellence in the customer experience will naturally follow.
To leave you with a final, provocative thought, our source material classifies educational institutions, your college, your alma mater, as service organizations. You paid a premium price for that service.
So if you were to conduct an importance performance analysis on your school today, which service element advising, class scheduling, facility cleanliness would fall into that dangerous quadrant A, highly important, yet poorly performed?
And what's the true life cycle cost of that education? Is the ongoing service support, like alumni relations and career networking, worth the high price you paid? Or is the perceived service quality degrading over time?
It's a powerful lens through which to view one of the most significant and costly service investments many of us will ever make.
Food for thought, indeed.
That's it for this edition of The Deep Dive. We hope you feel instantly well informed.